That's amazing. So, on one side of this, you've been talking about meal prepping quite a bit. Is that something that how did that start? How did you get into meal prepping? Was that due to the organization? How did that come about?
So before I started my nonprofit in 2014, I actually started the first childhood obesity intervention program in Augusta, Georgia in 2012. And it was partly funded by the American Academy of Pediatrics. We had to apply for a grant, and they only issue about 60 or 70 grants nationwide per year. And we got one of them for $3,000. So I kind of partnered. I took it outside of the hospital, and I partnered with different businesses like, grocery stores, and then in particular, like companies and chefs. And this one company called Wild Tree that we used to work with, they had the concept of freezer meals. They said, if we take time at least one day a week to meal prep, which is the most difficult part of cooking, cutting everything up, taking time to do all that. If we do that, we're going to be more successful of having a meal that we're making and eating with our family every day instead of going through the drive-thru or going to a restaurant. And so I took that concept, and I basically, anytime I work with any new company or chef or any culinary expert, we continue to use that. And parents love it because they said it's difficult to come home from work and picking up the kids from school to go, let me go in the kitchen, cut everything up and defrost this and this. If you have everything already in a bag and you've labeled it, all you got to do is either throw it in the crock pot, throw it in the oven or in the pan, and 30 minutes later we have a meal. And it works for me and my husband. We're both doctors, so we love that concept. And we said if it works for us as doctors who are busy, it should help parents. The other thing that it's cool is that the kids get to be part of the meal prepping because they have that time. That one day a week they can work with mom or dad to make that meal prepping fun. They get to actually pick what meals they make and what vegetables or what meats or other proteins that they're willing to incorporate into the meal that they're making together. And then you sit down and eat together, right? And you're not eating in front of the TV. You're not having your phone around. You're not distracted. So you have a set amount of time that you're spending together to meal prep and also eating together.
That's quite amazing. That's going to work for us too, because like I said, we're both, me and my wife, we're both pretty strong. We work a lot, you know what I mean? So therefore, cutting out some time to make that meal. And my son's only 2.5, like I said, so that may not be right away, but I imagine if we start that habit, he'll become a part of that habit as well, right?
Yeah. And I think, for instance, if he gets to maybe he's not cutting vegetables right now, but if he gets to touch the vegetables, smell it, taste it, maybe you cut something, you dip it to something, have him taste it, that's an exposure, right? So you're starting young and their mind and it's kind of making that connection to, I ate this, it's okay, I could swallow it, not going to hurt. I didn't throw up. I didn't have belly pain, right? So those are the things that they learn very early. Yeah.
Okay, so I got to ask, how did you come to this notion of exposure and like touching and feeling of things? Because, it's kind of silly. I definitely should have thought about this because my son loves to pick up and touch everything. But how'd you correlate that with food?
Well, I work with a lot of children as a PGI who struggle with picky eating, especially children who have autism. And I work with babies who were born premature. And so they have feeding challenges, right? Starting from breastfeeding, bottle feeding, baby food, trying different textures, having delayed introduction of food because of their developmental delay as a premature baby. I work with feeding therapists, speech therapists. And these are the things we learn from each other, right? We learn from the parents, we learn from our patients at different stages of development. But certainly, even in children who were not born premature, but they struggle with food sensitivity and pickiness, this is where we figured out. Parents teach us, right? Parents said, after the 10th time, he finally ate that one little bite, and we're like, success. And same thing, like working with the feeding therapists and identifying, is it a swallowing problem? Are they aspirating into their lungs? Do we have to thicken that food? Do we have to cut it smaller? do we have to take the skin off and then eventually like put some skin on it and eventually don't have to take any skin off of that vegetable? So those are the things, and that's how I learned.